If you're losing faith in XRP, this video is for you. And I would just ask, if you're part of our community here, please help us out by sharing this one out to people that have been in XRP or those new folks just getting in who need to understand why we remain so bullish on this asset. We're going to show you the secret holdings of investment banks and hedge funds, and you better believe that they've been adding exposure to XRP. We're also going to break down a secret DTCC patent. And this is the same DTCC, by the way, that settles quadrillions of dollars of securities trading and settlement per year. They're getting ready to tokenize securities and go live with that new rollout in July, full rollout later in October. And this is setting us up for XRP to see its full utility realized at scale. And we're going to break this down for you in today's update to remind you why you're in XRP, or to maybe, if you're new, show you why we are so excited about this investment opportunity, even though it's been chopping sideways, even though the market went down over the past 24, 48 hours after the Clarity Act passed out a markup. I know a lot of people were expecting that to bring a bigger pump. For us, it was just another typical buy the rumor, sell the news, right? This is just the next step in getting the Clarity Act passed. So we got this run up into Clarity Act passing out a markup. As soon as it passes up out of the committee, I should say, then we get the sell-off. Very normal. And it doesn't mean that the rally before it actually gets signed into law is done. In fact, this opportunity right now to load up and front run that move, I still think is there. And if we do get a short-term pullback, taking us a little bit lower than the current levels, we get some really attractive buying opportunities coming across our desk. So I'll be taking advantage of that. And let's get straight on into the holdings here. We're talking investment banks and hedge funds. They have to file what are called 13F filings. And they do this at the end of the quarter to reveal all of their holdings and exposure. And they know, by the way, that you got me and a bunch of other people that are going to be dissecting all of these holdings to try to figure out who's holding what. And this has gotten a lot of fun for us in the XRP community because now we can start to track their ETF holdings. So we can't figure out if they got separate exposure in a cold storage wallet, or maybe they set up an account at one of our favorite brokerage platforms, Caleb and Brown, and we won't know about those holdings, right? They got it in free institutional grade custody with our friends at Caleb and Brown. Use my link down below to get in touch with those guys. We won't know about that, but we do know about their ETF exposure, and this is where it gets really interesting. Wall Street's crypto push continues, with Clear Street Group having disclosed their quarterly 13F, which shows over 636,000 shares of the Rex Osprey XRP ETF in its latest filing. We have over 30 plus 13F filings that came in. These were all due here by May 15th. And so they're starting, they started to trickle in through the first part of the month. And now we have a lot of them rolling in, dozens and dozens of these 13F filings. And in this one, we find that Citadel Advisors LLC is the actual entity. This is separate from Citadel Securities, which is the market making part of their business with Ken Griffin, Citadel. You guys might have heard of them with the whole GameStop saga, right? Yeah, they got exposure to XRP now too. That was one of the big ones that got added. And we're comparing the Q1 13F filings to the Q4 13Fs. And what we saw is Goldman Sachs took the lead with over $150 million worth of XRP ETF exposure at the end of Q4, and they still got it. But seeing players like Citadel join the party, this gets very interesting. Citadel Advisors LLC holds roughly 4.5 million in XRP-related ETFs, according to their most recent 13F. Massive. They got it in the Canary, the Grayscale, Bitwise, Franklin, and even the Rex Osprey as well too. And by the way, you also got to look at some of the basket ETFs as well too. Fidelity, not sure if Grayscale rolled one out yet. There's a few others, NASDAQ maybe, Bitwise. They're all, we're just getting started on the products being rolled out too, by the way. The ETFs that we have now, the spot, the basket, those basket ETFs, those will pick up actual XRP to back them as well too. They aren't like futures, the futures ETFs that aren't backed by the actual XRP. These are like spot ETFs. They're just basket spot positions. So those basket ETFs are going to be taking more XRP off of the open market as well. And so what we see is I had a summary put together for you guys, and let's run through this. Goldman Sachs at 152 million, still number one by a huge margin. And this is the list of the top XRP ETF exposure. We got investment banks like Goldman Sachs, and we have hedge funds like Millennium Management. They're in second place at 23 to 27 million of XRP ETF exposure. Merrick's Group shows up with 9.4 million. Aggressive buyer, 356,000 shares of Canary XRP ETF and 286,000 new shares of Bitwise. So their position grew by 51% quarter on quarter. Loganstone Capital and Citadel Advisors, they're both at about 4.5 to 5 million each. So there you go. Now, like I said, Citadel, this is separate from Citadel Securities, which is their market making group. This is the entity where they have their hedge fund and alternative investments like investing in XRP ETFs. Then the other one that joined the party, and this is an interesting one, is Jane Street Group, another big market maker. But these big market makers, they also have their hedge funds as well too. They have investment advisor funds. They have alternative investment funds. And that's where they're getting their clients exposure to XRP, is they're picking up these XRP ETFs, and they're quietly doing so, which is why I titled this episode XRP Secret Holdings Revealed, is because if we didn't pick through these 13F filings, that they're buried in these filings, which are hundreds of pages. These companies will take thousands of different positions. But this is one of the things that AI has really helped streamline, is when you research and you go through these filings. I always double check my AI work, but you go through this and it streamlines the process, and you can spin up a list like this that shows all the top XRP ETF holdings with one simple prompt in about 10 seconds. And you have UBS that joined the party as well too. This one was interesting. $1.5 million worth of the Volatility Shares XRP ETF plus tiny grayscale position as well. A few other players in there as well too, all very small, not more than a couple million. Now, the top 30 holders combined is over 211 million in Q4. And it looks like we're still at about the same numbers. Not much of a change between Q4 of 2025 and Q1, other than some new players arriving. And now the inflows are starting to pull in as well too. So we take a look here now. This is XRP. XRP-insights.com. This is the ETF tracker, and we see the week 2026 daily flows. This is for week May 11th through May 15th, the week that we just had. And we had over 30 million of net inflows. 38.34 million was the net flow. And now you look, you have 881 million XRP locked behind these XRP ETFs. Now we're quickly approaching 1% of the total XRP supply, right? Once we get a billion XRP parked behind these ETFs, we'll officially hit that 1% total supply of XRP parked behind ETFs. We're very close. And I want to remind everybody that what we've seen so far is nothing compared to what's coming. Goldman Sachs themselves had predicted 4 to 8 billion of inflows into the XRP ETFs year one. Now we're still, we still have some time before we reach the 1 year anniversary of the spot XRP ETFs going live. And they kind of trickled in too. So, we have basically between now and the end of this year, for what Goldman Sachs had predicted, another 4 to 8 billion of inflows. Right? The net flow so far is a little over $1 billion, and XRP prices come down. So when we look at the total AUM, it's $1.2 billion in the XRP ETFs collectively. So we're nowhere near what we're going to see come into this. And here's the point that I really wanted to get across before we move to the secret DTCC patent. They know that this is going to be revealed. And so the Q1 report, that's at the end of March, right? And that doesn't expose their intra-quarter trading, right? They could have picked up positions and then sold them off before the end of the quarter, so they didn't report, how much activity they might have actually had in the asset. And so we won't get the Q2 13F filings, right, till well into Q3. And so the time delay between the quarter taking place and their actual trading activity taking place, and when they have to report it out to the public for us little guys to try to dissect and decode, there's quite a bit of time. And what I want you guys to be ready for and make sure that you don't miss is the gap up in inflows and AUM and the amount of money that's going to come into these XRP ETFs. I'm predicting big jumps in the 13F filings and the exposure to XRP ETFs in Q2 and then in Q3 later this year. And we're gonna look back, and people are gonna have missed the opportunity, and we're gonna point them to the content that we were putting out during this time, where we were saying, guys, no, the institutional inflows are there. The ETF inflows have been steady even during this bear market, and in fact, we were warning that they were about to pick up into Q2 and into Q3. Right as the Clarity Act is going to be passing into law, they're going to front run this. They're going to make a huge amount of money. And I think that they did their part to pump up Bitcoin up to 126,000 in October. And now the rotation into Ethereum, the rotation into XRP and Solana, it started during a bear market. The XRP ETFs started during a bear market. Just wait. Over the next 2 to 3 years, we are going to watch tens of billions of dollars flow into these XRP ETFs. And all of them are locking up real XRP supply behind them, which leads to that supply shock. And this is the same XRP that might be used by the DTCC. That's right, folks. Let's see it. So we have the Baron of Beach Street, the official legend of the Digital Asset Investor channel. Huge shout out to the Baron of Beach Street. Had the chance to meet him a few times in XRP Las Vegas. Great guy. But he found this patent last year in 2025. And now we look. It gets interesting here because the DTCC is about to go live here in July. The DTCC, they clear and settle roughly $2.4 quadrillion per year. Okay. Now, I'm going to skip ahead here. This is where this gets interesting. You have the inventor of this liquidity token patent working on behalf of the DTCC. And he says in this interview right here, the one right to win the DTCC has is we are the record keeper for quadrillions of dollars in transactions. We have 100 trillion in assets under management. So unilaterally, without the need to engage anyone else, we can actually make it possible to tokenize 100 trillion in assets. No one else can do that efficiently. We are building out those rails to make that possible so that parties within seconds can convert in traditional holding into token form to conduct transactions. Everyone's gunning for this new technology and method, and there's not much time left. You'll get left behind if you're not able to keep pace. We are past the 7th inning stretch, and it's the 8th inning as we are rounding the corner. It's very close to the finish. The group lays the patent on the bar for a closer look. Now you can look right here at this timeline, and as of right now, the status of this patent is active, and it won't expire till 2040. Now, when you scroll down here, you can actually see this image, and I've actually blown it up. This is the patent, and here's the graphic up in the top left there. You see where they actually show in the payment flow here, Stellar and XRP both being used. Figure 17 in this patent, they're using Stellar and XRP as examples again, right? So we have seen this in Bank of America patents that include XRP. The DTCC patent here that includes XRP is just one of hundreds and thousands of patents that include XRP in their graphics and their flows. and where we see enlisted blockchains that they may use for these patents. You know, we can look at Bank of America, Google, all of Ripple has a bunch of patents for on-demand liquidity as well too. One common denominator is they always are mentioning XRP or the Ripple blockchain or Stellar in a lot of these patents. And the reason why we bring this up, and shout out to the legend for sharing this one again, is because now the DTCC has said that they're going to be going live and they're going to begin limited production trades of tokenized securities starting in July of this year. So all of this is coming together. All of the dominoes are falling, and now the DTCC is going to be going live with the settlement of these trades of securities, tokenized securities, in July of this year, with the full service launch scheduled for October of 2026. Now, I looked right here. The initial targets of highly liquid assets like the Russell 1000 constituents is going to be the focus at the start. ETFs tracking major indices, U.S. Treasury bills, notes, and bonds, and then they expand from there. But as they note, over 114 trillion in assets. So this has massive scale potential. So this is the process, and what you'll find is that they also, when the DTC announced this, they announced over 50 institutions and some crypto native firms that were going to be part of this rollout of this tokenized securities trading in July. And you better believe that Ripple was included in that list as well. So I present this information to you today to remind folks who are starting to lose faith that the institutions, investment banks, and hedge funds are still getting exposure to XRP. I share this information with you today to remind you that in almost all of the patents by the largest institutions and organizations like the DTCC that are literally settling hundreds of trillions and quadrillions per year, they are including XRP in those patents and those workflows, and Ripple is going to be included in the working group to roll this out this year. Not hypothetical speculation for sometime in the future, in July, which is less than a month and a half away now. So prepare for the pump in XRP and other American digital assets that I think are going to be some of the best performers as America gets the Clarity Act, America gets the new Fed, we start to see some peace deals roll out, and I think that we enter this next bull run with so much momentum behind these digital assets, XRP ready to lead the charge. But you guys let me know what you make of this information in the comments down below, the institutions and their secret holdings, and the fact that on all of these patents that we look at for big institutions and banks, they make sure that their patents include XRP in the flows. You guys let me know what you think of it in the comments down below. And if you guys want to check it out, this Saturday morning Discord weekly call, I just went through my updated holdings in my portfolio. This is the first update to my holdings since late January. So if you guys want to check that out, I ran through why and what I'm holding in the update this morning for Discord. So just sign up through Patreon to get access to Discord. We'd love to have you in the community. Other than that, we have all of our community resources available at zachrector.com. And I greatly appreciate your support. If you could like this video on the way out, we'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you, and God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.